My mother-in-law shaved my 8-year-old daughter's head while I was at work, saying she needed to learn obedience. My daughter had hair she'd grown since she was 3. When she saw her reflection, she collapsed and started sobbing. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I went straight to court. And when the judge read what she had done, my wife was forced to make one final choice. And she chose. But before I begin, please like and subscribe to the channel. And we'd love to hear which part of the world are you joining us from. Let us know. Now, let's dive into today's story. The metal shop smelled like burnt rubber and oil, the kind of smell that worked its way into your clothes and stayed there no matter how many times you washed them. Well, Carter didn't mind it anymore. After 6 years of working the same grinder, the same press, the same rotation of 12-hour shifts, the smell had become part of him, like the calluses on his palms or the permanent ache in his lower back. He was finishing up a weld when Danny, the floor supervisor, tapped him on the shoulder. Will pulled off his helmet and squinted against the fluorescent lights overhead. "Carter, you're done for the day," Danny said, his voice barely audible over the grinding noise from the next station. Thompson called in. "He's covering your afternoon." Will glanced at the wall clock. 2:15. He'd been expecting to work until 10. "Everything okay?" Will asked. "Yeah, just schedule shuffle. Take the win, man. Go home." Will didn't argue. He clocked out, grabbed his thermos from the break room, and walked out into the Colorado afternoon. The sun was bright and sharp, the kind of light that made everything look too clear, too exposed. Hudson was quiet this time of day. Most people were at work, kids still in school, the streets empty except for the occasional dog walker or delivery truck. He lived 15 minutes from the shop, in a 2-story house with blue siding and a front porch that needed new boards. He'd been meaning to fix it for 2 years. The grass needed mowing. The mailbox leaned slightly to the left. It wasn't much, but it was his. His and Mary's. And Sophia's. Sophia, 8 years old as of last month. Obsessed with drawing animals, terrible at soccer, brilliant at math in a way that surprised even her teachers. And her hair, God, her hair. She'd been growing it since she was 3, long and dark and thick, falling halfway down her back. She wore it in a braid most days, sometimes 2. She was so proud of it. Will pulled into the driveway and killed the engine. The house was quiet. Mary's car was parked out front, which meant she was home. That was unusual. She worked part-time at a dental office, usually didn't get back until 4. He unlocked the front door and stepped inside. The living room was dim, curtains half drawn. The TV was off. The air felt heavy, wrong somehow, like the moment before a storm when everything goes still. Then he saw her. Sophia was sitting on the carpet near the couch, knees pulled up to her chest, her arms wrapped tight around her shins. Her head was down. Will's stomach dropped. Her hair was gone. Not cut short. Not trimmed. Gone. Shaved down to the scalp, uneven patches of stubble. Along the curve of her head, he could see thin red lines. Razor burn. Maybe small cuts. He dropped his keys. The sound echoed in the silence. "Sophia?" She looked up. Her eyes were red, swollen. She'd been crying for a while. Will crossed the room in 3 steps and dropped to his knees in front of her. His hands hovered near her face, not quite touching, afraid he might hurt her. "Baby, what happened? Who did this?" Her voice came out small, shaking. "Grandma." Will's breath caught. He felt heat rise in his chest, his jaw tightening, but he kept his voice soft. "Grandma Barbara did this to you?" Sophia nodded, tears spilling over again. She said I don't listen. She said it would teach me." Will closed his eyes for a second, forcing himself to breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. He couldn't lose it, not in front of her. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay, sweetheart. It's going to be okay." He reached out slowly and took her hand. It was small and cold. He squeezed it gently. "Did she hurt you anywhere else?" Sophia shook her head. "Does her head hurt?" "A little. It stings." Will nodded. "All right. Come here." He scooped her up carefully, stood, and carried her into the kitchen. She was light, too light, and she buried her face against his shoulder. He could feel her shaking. He set her down on the counter, grabbed a clean dish towel from the drawer, ran it under cold water, and wrung it out. Then he pressed it gently to her scalp, dabbing at the red marks. Sophia winced, but didn't pull away. "You're okay," Will murmured. "You're safe now." That's when he heard footsteps on the stairs. Mary appeared in the doorway, still in her work scrubs, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked tired, annoyed even, like she'd been woken from a nap. "Will, I didn't know you'd be home early." He stared at her. He didn't trust himself to speak yet. Mary sighed. "Look, I told you not to make a big deal out of this." "A big deal." His voice came out flat, controlled. "It's just hair. It'll grow back." Mom was trying to help. Will turned slowly to face her, still holding the damp cloth against Sophia's head. "Help, yes." Sophia's been difficult lately. Talking back, not listening. Mom thought, "Your mother shaved our daughter's head." Mary's jaw tightened. She was trying to teach her a lesson. She hurt her. Will gestured to the red marks. "Look at her. Look at what she did." Mary glanced at Sophia, then away, her arms folding across her chest. "It's not that bad. You're overreacting." "Overreacting." "Yes. You always do this." "You coddle her." Mom's raised 3 girls. She knows how to handle discipline. Will felt something cold settle in his chest, something that made his hands steady and his voice calm. "Where were you when this happened?" Mary hesitated. "I was here." "You were here." "Yes." "And you let her do this?" Mary's face flushed. It wasn't like that. It happened fast. By the time I realized." "You stood there and watched your mother shave her daughter's head." "Stop twisting it," Mary snapped. She was trying to help. "Sophia needs to learn respect." We'll set the cloth down on the counter. He looked at Sophia, who was watching them both with wide, frightened eyes. "Go upstairs, baby," he said gently. "Go to your room. I'll be up in a minute." Sophia slid off the counter and hurried past her mother without looking at her. They heard her footsteps on the stairs, then the soft click of her bedroom door. We'll turn back to Mary. "I'm going to see your mother." "Will." "No, I'm going to see her. And you're going to stay here." He grabbed his keys from where he dropped them and walked out. Barbara lived 20 minutes away in a ranch-style house with a neat lawn and a flagpole in the front yard. Will had always found it ironic how orderly everything looked on the outside. He parked in the driveway, got out, and walked to the front door. He didn't knock. Barbara never locked it during the day. She thought this was still the kind of neighborhood where that was safe. The door opened into a living room decorated in florals and pastels. Barbara was in her recliner, a mug of tea on the side table, watching a rerun of some courtroom show. She looked up when he walked in, unsurprised. "Will, why did you shave Sophia's head?" Barbara picked up her mug, took a sip, and set it back down with deliberate slowness. "She backtalked me. You're too soft on her." Someone had to step in. Will stood in the middle of the room, hands at his sides. "You hurt her." "Oh, please." Barbara waved a hand dismissively. "It's hair. It'll grow back." She needed to learn a lesson. "She's 8 years old." "Exactly. Old enough to know better. Old enough to show respect to her elders." Will felt that cold thing in his chest spread, numbing everything else. "What did she say to you?" "What? What did she say that was so disrespectful you felt the need to do this?" Barbara's mouth thinned. "She told me no." "She told you no?" "Yes. I asked her to sit still while I brushed her hair, and she said no. She said she wanted to wait for Mary. I told her I was in charge, and she argued with me." Barbara leaned forward slightly. "That kind of behavior doesn't fly in my house. I don't care whose child she is." Will stared at her. "You held her down and shaved her head because she told you no." "I disciplined her." "There's a difference." "You hurt my daughter." Barbara's eyes hardened. "Your daughter needs a firmer hand. Mary knows that. It's you who's the problem. You let that girl run wild." Will didn't raise his voice. He didn't move. He just looked at her, really looked at her, and saw exactly who she was. Who she'd always been. "You don't get to touch her again." Barbara laughed, sharp and cold. "Excuse me, you don't get to touch my daughter. Ever again. I'm her grandmother. You don't get to tell me. I'm her father. And yes, I do." Barbara stood up, her face reddening. "You're out of line. Mary will never stand for this." Will turn toward the door. "Then Mary can make a choice." "What's that supposed to mean?" He looked back at her. "You're lucky I'm walking out of here. You're lucky that's all I'm doing." "Are you threatening me?" "No, I'm telling you the truth." He walked out, got in his truck, and drove home. When he got back, Mary was still in the kitchen, pacing near the sink. She spun around when he came in. What did you say to her? I told her she's not seeing Sophia again. Mary's eyes went wide. You can't do that. She's my mother. I can. And I will. Will, you're being insane. She made a mistake. She didn't mean. She meant it. Will walked past her toward the stairs. Where's Sophia? In her room. But we need to talk about. We're done talking. He climbed the stairs, his footsteps heavy on the old wood. Sophia's door was closed. He knocked softly. It's me, baby. Come in. She was sitting on her bed, still hugging her knees. She'd put on a hoodie, the hood pulled up to cover her head. Will sat down beside her, the mattress dipping under his weight. Can I see? Sophia hesitated, then slowly pulled the hood back. The red marks were more visible now, thin lines crisscrossing her scalp where the razor had pressed too hard. His throat tightened, but he kept his face calm. Does it still sting? A little. I'm going to get some cream for that. It'll help. Sophia looked down at her hands. Is Mom mad at me? No, baby. Mom's not mad at you. She sounded mad. Will put his arm around her shoulders, careful not to touch her head. She's upset, but not at you. Never at you. None of this is your fault. Grandma said. Sophia's voice wavered. She said good girls don't say no. Will felt that cold thing in his chest harden into something sharp. That's not true. She said I have to obey adults. Sophia, look at me. She lifted her eyes, so much like Mary's, but clearer, more honest. You always have the right to say no if someone's trying to hurt you. Even adults. Even family. Do you understand? She nodded slowly. What did Grandma say when she was doing this? I need you to tell me everything. Sophia's hands twisted in her lap. She said I needed to learn to listen. She held my head still, and I tried to move, but her voice broke. She said I was being dramatic, that it was just hair, that I should be grateful she was teaching me something. Did Mom try to stop her? Sophia went very quiet. Sophia? Mom was in the doorway. She said maybe it would be good for me to learn. Will closed his eyes. He felt something crack inside him, something fundamental. When he opened his eyes again, his voice was steady. I want you to stay up here for a little while, okay? Can you do that? Are you going to yell at Mom? No, I'm not going to yell. He kissed the top of her head gently, stood up, and left the room. Mary was waiting at the bottom of the stairs, arms crossed, defensive. I talked to my mother, she said quickly. She admits she went too far. She's sorry. Is she? Yes, she is. She's old-fashioned. She doesn't understand that things are different now. Will walked past her into the living room. He grabbed the duffel bag they kept in the hall closet, the one they used for overnight trips, and tossed it at Mary's feet. She stared at it. What are you doing? You need to leave. What? Pack your things. You're leaving. Mary's face went pale. You're kicking me out? Over a haircut. No. Over what you let happen to our daughter. Over the fact that you stood there and watched and did nothing. I didn't. It wasn't like that. You told her it would be good for her. Mary's mouth opened, closed. I was trying to de-escalate. You were trying to side with your mother. She's my mother. What was I supposed to do? Protect your daughter. Will's voice didn't rise, didn't waver. That's what you were supposed to do. I am protecting her. You're the one making this into something it's not. Sophia has razor burns on her head. She's terrified. She thinks she did something wrong. And you're defending the person who did it. Mary's eyes filled with tears. You're twisting everything. My mother made a mistake, but she didn't mean to hurt her. She was trying to help. And you're acting like she's some kind of monster. She held my daughter down and shaved her head to teach her a lesson. And you think that's okay. I think you're overreacting. Will picked up the duffel bag and held it out to her. You have a choice, Mary. You can stay here with Sophia and me. But if you do, your mother doesn't come near her. Ever. She doesn't visit. She doesn't call. She's out. Mary stared at him. Her face red, tears streaming down her cheeks. You can't make me choose between my daughter and my mother. I'm not making you choose. You already did. You chose when you stood there and let it happen. That's not fair. Maybe not. But it's the truth. Mary grabbed the bag from his hands, her movements jerky, angry. Fine. You want me gone? I'm gone. But you're going to regret this, Will. You're tearing this family apart. No, your mother did that. Mary walked past him, grabbed her purse from the kitchen counter, and stormed toward the door. She stopped with her hand on the knob, turned back. She's going to want to see her grandmother. No, Will said quietly. She won't. Mary slammed the door on her way out. The house fell silent. Will stood in the living room, listening to the sound of Mary's car starting, pulling out of the driveway, disappearing down the street. Then he heard soft footsteps on the stairs. Sophia appeared, still wearing the hoodie, her eyes wide and frightened. Is Mom coming back? Will crouched down so he was at her level. I don't know, baby, but you and me, we're going to be okay. I promise. Sophia walked over and wrapped her arms around his neck. He held her tight, feeling the tremor in her small body, and made a silent vow. No one would ever hurt her like this again. Not on his watch. 2 days passed in strange quiet. Will called into work, told Danny he had a family emergency, and stayed home with Sophia. They watched movies. They made pancakes for breakfast. He let her pick the meals, let her stay up late, let her sleep in his bed when she got scared in the night. Her head was healing, but slowly. He bought antibiotic cream from the pharmacy, applied it twice a day. The red marks were fading, but the stubble was growing in uneven, patchy. Every time he looked at it, he felt that cold anger settle deeper. Mary had called 6 times. He didn't answer. She'd left voicemails, first angry, then pleading, then angry again. He didn't listen to all of them. He got the gist. On the 3rd day, there was a knock at the door. Will was in the kitchen making lunch when he heard it. 3 sharp raps, official sounding. He glanced at Sophia, who was coloring at the table. Stay here, okay? She nodded without looking up. Will walked to the door and opened it. 2 officers stood on his porch. One was older, maybe 50, with graying hair and tired eyes. The other was younger, mid-30s, with a notebook in his hand. Mr. Carter, the older one said. Yes, I'm Officer Reynolds. This is Officer Kim. We received a report and need to ask you some questions. Will's stomach tightened, but he kept his face neutral. What kind of report? A complaint was filed by Barbara Jensen. She claims you've been threatening her and harassing your wife. Of course she did. Come in, Will said, stepping back. The officers entered, glancing around the living room. Reynolds looked uncomfortable. Kim was already writing something down. Is your daughter home? Reynolds asked. She's in the kitchen. We'd like to speak with her, if that's all right. About what? Kim looked up from his notebook. Mrs. Jensen claims you're alienating your wife from her family and making false accusations about an incident involving your daughter. Will felt that familiar surge of anger, but he pushed it down. Give me a minute. He walked into the kitchen. Sophia looked up, her eyes widening when she saw his expression. There are police officers here. They want to talk to us about what Grandma did. Sophia's face went pale. Am I in trouble? No, baby. You're not in trouble. I need you to tell them the truth. Okay? Just like you told me. She nodded, her hands gripping the crayon too tight. We'll let her into the living room. She sat on the couch, small and quiet, and he sat beside her. Reynolds crouched down so he was at her level. Hi, Sophia. I'm Officer Reynolds. I just need to ask you a couple questions, okay? Sophia nodded. Your grandma says you got a haircut recently. Is that right? Yes. Can you tell me about that? Sophia glanced at Will. He nodded encouragement. Grandma shaved my head. Reynolds kept his voice gentle. Did she ask you first if that's what you wanted? No. I told her no, but she did it anyway. She didn't ask permission. She said I had to listen. She said good girls don't say no. Reynolds glanced at his partner, then back at Sophia. Did it hurt? Sophia pulled off her hood. The stubble was visible, uneven, and the faint red lines still marked her scalp. Kim stopped writing. Reynolds' jaw tightened. Can I see a little closer? Reynolds asked. Sophia nodded. He leaned in, studying the marks, then sat back. Thank you, sweetheart. You did great. He stood and turned to Will. Do you have any documentation of this? I do. Will pulled out his phone, brought up the photos he'd taken the first day, clear, well-lit shots of Sophia's head from multiple angles. Then he showed them the text for Barbara. Reynolds scrolled through them. One in particular made him pause. You need to control your emotions. I was teaching her respect. If you can't handle that, you're weaker than I thought. She sent this. Reynolds asked. 2 days ago, after I told her she couldn't see Sophia anymore. And the report she filed. She claimed you threatened her. I told her she wasn't going to touch my daughter again. That's it. I didn't threaten violence. I didn't lay a hand on her. Reynolds handed the phone back. Mr. Carter, we're going to need to file our own report. This isn't what Mrs. Jensen described. Kim looked up from his notes. Do you have medical documentation? I took her to urgent care. They documented the razor burns. I have the paperwork. We went upstairs, grabbed the folder he'd been keeping, and brought it down. Inside was the doctor's note, the photos printed out, and copies of the texts. Reynolds looked through it all methodically. When he finished, he handed it to Kim. Sir, Reynolds said quietly, this looks like retaliation. Mrs. Jensen filed a complaint to cover her own actions. I know. We're going to document all of this. If you want to pursue charges for child abuse. I do. Reynolds nodded. We'll forward this to CPS. They'll likely want to interview your daughter as well. In the meantime, I'd recommend you file for a restraining order. Already planning on it. Kim closed his notebook. Mr. Carter, for what it's worth, you're doing the right thing. A lot of parents wouldn't stand up to family like this. She hurt my kid, Will said simply. That's all that matters. The officers left shortly after. Will closed the door and leaned against it, exhaling slowly. Sophia was still on the couch, watching him. Dad, are they going to arrest Grandma? I don't know, baby. Maybe. Is Mom going to be mad? Probably. Sophia looked down at her hands. I don't want Mom to be mad. Will crossed the room and sat beside her. Sophia, I need you to understand something. What Grandma did was wrong. It doesn't matter if Mom's upset. It doesn't matter if people don't understand. What matters is that you're safe. Okay. She nodded, but she looked so small, so scared. I'm going to fix this, Will said. I promise. The next morning, Will met with a lawyer. Her name was Janet Reeves, a family attorney recommended by a guy at the shop whose brother had gone through a messy divorce. Her office was in a strip mall downtown, sandwiched between a tax service and a nail salon. The waiting room had worn carpet and outdated magazines, but when she shook his hand, her grip was firm and her eyes were sharp. Tell me everything, she said, gesturing for him to sit. Will did. He told her about Sophia's hair, about Barbara's justifications, about Mary standing there and doing nothing. He showed her the photos, the texts, the police report, the medical documentation. He explained how Barbara had filed a false complaint, how Mary kept calling demanding he apologize. Janet listened without interrupting. When he finished, she leaned back in her chair. You have a strong case for temporary custody, she said. Very strong. This is documented abuse, witnessed by your wife, with medical evidence and law enforcement involvement. What about Mary? Your wife enabled the abuse and failed to protect your daughter. In custody cases, that's a serious problem. Add in the false police report from her mother, and you're looking at a pattern of behavior designed to retaliate against you for protecting your child. So what do? You file for emergency temporary custody. We request supervised visitation for your wife until she can demonstrate she's willing to prioritize Sophia's safety. And we get a restraining order against Barbara. How long will this take? Emergency custody can be granted within a week if the evidence is strong enough. Which yours is? Will felt a weight lift slightly. What do I need to do? Let me do my job. You focus on taking care of your daughter. Keep documenting everything. Every call, every text, every interaction. Don't engage with Barbara or your wife beyond what's absolutely necessary. And most importantly, don't let anyone tell you you're overreacting. I won't. Janet smiled slightly. Good. I've seen too many cases where the non-abusive parent backs down because of family pressure. You're doing what's right, Mr. Carter. She's my daughter. Exactly. Will left the office feeling something he hadn't felt in days. Hope. That afternoon, Mary showed up. Will was on the porch, fixing one of the loose boards he'd been ignoring for months, when her car pulled into the driveway. She got out slowly, like she was approaching something dangerous. Will. He set down the hammer, didn't stand. What do you want? I want to see Sophia. No. Mary's face flushed. You can't keep her from me. I'm her mother. You didn't act like it. That's not fair. I was trying to keep the peace. I didn't know it would. Would what? Hurt her? Traumatize her? Will stood up, his voice still calm but cold. You watched your mother shave our daughter's head. You told Sophia it would be good for her. You did nothing. I made a mistake. Yes, you did. And you're punishing me for it. No, I'm protecting Sophia. Mary's eyes filled with tears. She's my daughter too. Then act like it. What does that even mean? It means you make a choice. Sophia or your mother. Because you can't have both. Not anymore. Mary wiped her eyes angrily. My mother made a mistake. She didn't mean to hurt her. She was trying to help. And there it is. Will picked up the hammer again. You're still defending her. I'm not. You are. You're standing here telling me she didn't mean it. Like that makes it okay. Like Sophia's fear and pain don't matter because Barbara had good intentions. That's not what I'm saying. Then what are you saying? Mary opened her mouth, closed it. I'm saying you're making me choose. No, you already chose. I'm just making sure Sophia doesn't get hurt again. I would never let that happen. You already did. The words hung between them, heavy and final. Mary's face crumpled. I want to talk to her. Please. No. Will. I filed for temporary custody. You'll get supervised visitation until the court decides. Mary staggered back like he'd hit her. You did what? I'm protecting my daughter. She's my daughter too. Then maybe you should have acted like it. Mary stared at him, her face going from shocked to furious. You're going to regret this. My mother has lawyers. We're going to fight this. And when Sophia is old enough to understand what you did, when she's old enough, she'll understand I kept her safe. You're destroying this family. No, Mary, your mother did that. You just let her. Mary turned and walked back to her car. She paused with her hand on the door handle. She's going to hate you for this. Maybe, but she'll be safe. Mary got in and drove away. Will stood on the porch, holding the hammer, watching until her car disappeared around the corner. Then he went inside, locked the door, and checked on Sophia. She was in her room, drawing. She looked up when he appeared. Was that Mom? Yeah. Did she want to see me? Yeah. Did you let her? Will knelt beside her. Not right now, baby. Not until I know you're safe. Sophia nodded slowly. She didn't look upset. She looked relieved. Okay. Will kissed the top of her head and left her to her drawing. A week later, a child advocate came to the house. Her name was Patricia Lynn, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes and a calm voice. She explained that the court had assigned her to speak with Sophia as part of the custody evaluation. I just want to hear her side of things, Patricia said. In her own words. Is that okay? Of course. Patricia spoke with Sophia alone in the living room while Will waited in the kitchen. He made coffee he didn't drink and stared out the window at the backyard, at the swing set he'd built 2 years ago that Sophia rarely used anymore. After 45 minutes, Patricia came into the kitchen. How'd it go? Will asked. Patricia's face was carefully neutral. She's a very brave little girl. Did she tell you what happened? She did. In detail. Patricia paused. Mr. Carter, I've been doing this for 15 years. I've seen a lot of cases. This is one of the clearest I've encountered. Clearest? Your daughter knows exactly what happened. She's not confused. She's not exaggerating. And she's not parroting anyone's words. She told me her grandmother held her down, shaved her head, and told her good girls don't say no. She said her mother was in the room and didn't stop it. Will felt his throat tighten. What else did she say? She said you're the only one who makes her feel safe. She said she doesn't want to see her grandmother again. And she said, Patricia hesitated. She said she misses her mother, but she's scared her mother will bring her grandmother back. Will closed his eyes. Mr. Carter, my report is going to recommend supervised visitation for your wife and a full restraining order against Barbara Jensen. Based on what Sophia told me and the evidence you provided, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be granted temporary custody. Thank you. Patricia put a hand on his arm. You did the right thing. Not every parent has the courage to stand up to family like this. I just want her safe. I know. And she is. Because of you. After Patricia left, Will sat on the couch and let himself breathe for the first time in days. Sophia came downstairs, sat beside him. Dad, yeah, baby. Am I going to have to see Grandma again? Will pulled her close. Not if I have anything to say about it. She rested her head against his shoulder. Good. They sat like that for a long time, the afternoon light slanting through the windows, the house quiet and still around them. The courtroom was smaller than Will had expected. He'd imagined something grand, imposing, like in the movies. But this was just a regular room with fluorescent lights, worn carpet, and a judge's bench that looked like it had been there since the 80s. Janet sat beside him, her briefcase open, documents neatly organized. Across the aisle, Mary sat with her own lawyer, a sharp-looking man in an expensive suit. Barbara was beside her, arms crossed, her face set in a permanent scowl. Will hadn't seen Barbara in person since that day in her living room. Looking at her now, he felt nothing but cold certainty. The judge entered, a woman in her 60s with steel-gray hair and reading glasses on a chain. Everyone stood. "Be seated," she said, settling into her chair. "This is a hearing for temporary custody in the matter of Carter versus Carter. Let's begin." Janet stood. "Your Honor, we're requesting emergency temporary custody for Mr. Carter based on documented child abuse by the maternal grandmother, Barbara Jensen, and failure to protect by the mother, Mary Carter." The other lawyers stood immediately. "Your Honor, these allegations are grossly exaggerated. Mrs. Jensen was attempting to discipline her granddaughter using methods that were standard in her generation. Mr. Carter has weaponized a family disagreement to alienate his daughter from her mother and grandmother." The judge looked unimpressed. "I'll decide what's been weaponized. Counselor Reeves, present your evidence." Janet laid it out methodically. The photos of Sophia's shaved head, blown up on a board so everyone could see the red marks, the uneven patches. The medical report from urgent care. The police report documenting the false complaint Barbara had filed. The text from Barbara justifying her actions. Patricia Lynn's report from the child advocate interview. And finally, a recording. "Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to play a recording Mr. Carter made of his daughter describing the incident." She gave permission for this to be shared. The judge nodded. "Proceed." Sophia's voice filled the courtroom, small and clear. "Grandma held my head and said I had to sit still. I said I wanted to wait for Mom, but she said no. She said I was being disrespectful. She said good girls don't say no to adults. I tried to move, but she held me really tight. It hurt. And Mom was there. She was in the doorway. She didn't stop her. She said maybe it would teach me something." The recording ended. The courtroom was silent. Will glanced across the aisle. Mary's face was pale, her hands clenched in her lap. Barbara's expression hadn't changed, but her jaw was tight. The judge looked at the other lawyer. Response. He stood, straightening his tie. "Your Honor, while the incident was regrettable, it was not abuse. It was discipline. Mrs. Jensen was raised in an era when such methods were common. She has raised 3 daughters successfully. She had no malicious intent." "No malicious intent," the judge repeated flatly. "That's correct, Your Honor. This was a misunderstanding that Mr. Carter has blown out of proportion to gain leverage in a custody dispute." Janet stood. "Your Honor, I'd like to call attention to the police report. Mrs. Jensen filed a false complaint claiming Mr. Carter threatened her. That complaint was investigated and found to be baseless. This is not a misunderstanding. This is retaliation." The judge looked at Barbara. "Mrs. Jensen, did you file a police report claiming Mr. Carter threatened you?" Barbara stood stiffly. "I did. He was aggressive and hostile." "What did he say specifically?" "He told me I couldn't see my granddaughter. He was intimidating." "Did he threaten violence?" Barbara hesitated. "He implied it." "That's not what I asked. Did he threaten violence? Yes or no?" "No." "But his tone." "Thank you." The judge turned to Mary. "Mrs. Carter, were you present when your mother shaved your daughter's head?" Mary stood, her voice shaking. "Yes, Your Honor." "Did you try to stop it?" I tried to calm the situation." "That's not what I asked. Did you physically try to stop it?" "No, but..." "Did you call the police?" "No." "Did you take your daughter to a doctor immediately?" "No." I didn't think it was that serious." "You didn't think razor burns on your 8-year-old daughter's scalp were serious?" Mary's face crumpled. "I made a mistake." "A mistake." The judge leaned back. "Mrs. Carter, your daughter told the child advocate that she's afraid her mother will bring her grandmother back in her life. Do you understand the severity of that statement?" "Yes." "Do you—" Mary looked down. "Yes, Your Honor." The judge turned to Barbara. "Mrs. Jensen, do you believe what you did was appropriate?" Barbara lifted her chin. "I believe children need discipline. I believe respect for elders is important. And I believe this entire situation has been blown out of proportion by a man who can't handle his daughter being corrected. The courtroom went very quiet. The judge stared at Barbara for a long moment. Let me be clear. You held a child down, shaved her head without consent, caused physical injury, and you believe this was appropriate discipline. I believe. I don't care what you believe. What you did is called assault. The only reason you're not facing criminal charges is because Mr. Carter has chosen to focus on protecting his daughter rather than punishing you. But make no mistake, if you come near that child again, I will personally ensure you face the full weight of the law. Barbara's face went red, but she said nothing. The judge looked at Mary. Mrs. Carter, you had a responsibility to protect your daughter. You failed. You stood by while your mother assaulted your child, and then you defended her actions. That is unacceptable. Your Honor, I'm not finished. I'm granting Mr. Carter temporary full custody of Sophia Carter. You will be allowed supervised visitation once per week, supervised by a court-appointed monitor. Mrs. Jensen is barred from all contact with the child. If you violate this order, you will lose visitation entirely. Do you understand? Mary's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, Your Honor. Good. We'll reconvene in 6 months for a full custody hearing. Until then, Mr. Carter has sole physical and legal custody. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. Will sat very still, letting it sink in. He'd won. Janet put a hand on his shoulder. You did it. Yeah. She's safe now. Yeah. Across the aisle, Mary was crying. Barbara was whispering something harsh in her ear. The lawyer was packing up his briefcase with tight, angry movements. Will stood. Janet gathered the documents. They walked toward the exit. Mary caught up to them in the hallway. Her face blotchy, mascara smeared. Will, please. He stopped, turned. You can't take her from me. She's my baby. I'm not taking her from you. You can see her every week. Under supervision. Like I'm some kind of criminal. You stood there and watched your mother hurt her. I made a mistake. Yes, you did. Mary grabbed his arm. Please, let me see her. Just for a few minutes. I'll apologize. I'll do whatever you want. Will look down at her hand on his arm, then back at her face. Do you understand what you did? Yes. Do you really? Mary's face twisted. I should have stopped her. I know that. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. You should have protected her. I know. Tears streamed down Mary's face. I know, okay? I know I messed up, but she's my daughter. I love her. I would never. You already did. Will. You picked your mother. You defended her. You call me crazy for protecting Sophia. You filed a false police report to cover for her. And now you're standing here asking me to trust you. I made mistakes, but no. Will pulled his arm free gently but firmly. You made choices, and now you have to live with them. Mary's voice rose, desperate. You can't do this. She needs her mother. She needs someone who will protect her. If you can prove that to you, the court will give you more time with her. Until then, you get supervised visits. This is because of your pride. You just want to punish me. No, I want to keep my daughter safe. Barbara appeared behind Mary, her face thunderous. This isn't over. We're going to appeal. We're going to fight this. Will looked at her. Go ahead. You think you've won? You just started a war. I didn't start anything. You did when you hurt my daughter. Barbara stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. That girl is going to grow up resenting you. She's going to see what you did to this family. And when she's old enough to understand, she's going to choose us. Will didn't flinch. Then I guess we'll find out. He walked away, Janet beside him, leaving them standing in the hallway. Outside, the Colorado sun was bright and sharp. Will stood on the courthouse steps, breathing in the cool air. Janet smiled. You handled that well. Didn't feel like it. Trust me, you did. Will looked up at the sky. I need to go pick up Sophia. She's at a friend's house. Go. Celebrate. You won. Yeah. Will paused. Thanks. For everything. That's my job. But for what it's worth, you're a good father. Will nodded, not trusting himself to speak, and walked to his truck. Sophia was waiting on the porch when he pulled up. She ran down the steps and climbed into the passenger seat. How'd it go? Will pulled her seatbelt across and clicked it in. We won. So, I don't have to see Grandma? No, you don't have to see Grandma. Sophia's whole body relaxed. And Mom, you'll see Mom once a week, with someone there to make sure you're safe. Okay. She looked out the window. Dad, yeah. I don't hate Mom. I know, baby. But I'm still scared of her. I know that too. Is that bad? Will reached over and squeezed her hand. No, it's not bad. It's honest. They drove home in silence. The streets of Hudson passed by. Familiar, quiet, unchanged. When they got to the house, Will unlocked the door and they went inside. It felt different now. Lighter somehow. What do you want for dinner? Will asked. Pizza. Pizza, it is. While they waited for the delivery, Sophia sat at the kitchen table and drew. Will watched her, the way she bit her lip when she concentrated, the way her hair, growing back now, soft and uneven, caught the light. Dad, yeah. Thank you. For what? For not letting anyone hurt me again. Will felt his throat tighten. You'll never have to worry about that. Not anymore. Sophia smiled, a real smile, and went back to her drawing. And Will knew, with absolute certainty, that he'd made the right choice. The hard choice. The only choice. 3 weeks after the hearing, Will and Sophia moved into a rental house on the other side of town. It was smaller than the old place. A single-story ranch with 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a backyard that needed work. But it was close to Will's shop, close to Sophia's school, and most importantly, it was theirs. Mary didn't know the address. The court had arranged it that way. The first supervised visit happened at a community center downtown. Will dropped Sophia off, waited in the parking lot, and picked her up an hour later. The supervisor, a quiet woman named Ellen, gave him a thumbs up through the window. How was it? Will asked when Sophia climbed into the truck. Okay. Mom cried a lot. Did she apologize? Yeah. She said she was sorry. She said she missed me. How did that make you feel? Sophia buckled her seatbelt, thinking. Sad. But also, I don't know. Still scared, I guess. That's okay. Is it, to be scared of your own mom? Will pulled out of the parking lot. Yeah, baby. It is. She let something bad happen to you. It's going to take time before you trust her again. Do you think I ever will? I don't know. That's up to you. Sophia nodded slowly, looking out the window. Dad, yeah. I don't miss Grandma. That's okay, too. Mom asked if I wanted to write her a letter. I said no, and that's your choice. Sophia turned to look at him. You're not mad. Why would I be mad? Because, I don't know, because she's family. Will reached over and squeezed her shoulder gently. Family is supposed to make you feel safe. If they don't, you don't owe them anything. Sophia seemed to consider this. Then she nodded and turned back to the window. That night, after dinner, she asked if she could pick out some hats. Hats? Will asked. Yeah, my hair's still short. I thought, maybe hats would be fun. They went to Target the next day. Sophia spent 20 minutes in the accessories aisle, trying on different styles, beanies, baseball caps, a ridiculous sun hat with flowers on the brim. She settled on 3. A purple beanie, a black cap with a rainbow on it, and a simple blue one that said Adventure. These are perfect, she said, hugging them to her chest. Will paid without comment. Later, when they got home, he found her in the bathroom, looking at herself in the mirror, wearing the purple beanie. How do I look? She asked. Like yourself. She smiled at that. The weeks turned into months. Will's life found a rhythm. He worked his shifts at the shop, picked Sophia up from school, made dinner, helped with homework. They developed rituals. Friday night was pizza and a movie. Saturday morning was pancakes. Sunday afternoon was the park if the weather was good, or the library if it wasn't. Mary's visits continued every week. Ellen said they were going well, that Mary seemed genuinely remorseful, but Sophia remained cautious. She was polite to her mother, but distant. She didn't talk much about the visits unless Will asked. Barbara tried to reach out twice, once through a letter that the court intercepted, once through a third-party message from Mary's sister. Both times, the answer was the same, no contact. The restraining order held. In April, Sophia's hair had grown back enough to pull into a small ponytail. She stared at it in the mirror for a long time. It's not the same, she said quietly. Will stood in the doorway. It will be. Give it time. It's never going to be as long as it was. Maybe not, but it's yours, and nobody's going to take it from you again. Sophia touched the ponytail, her fingers gentle. Promise. Promise. In June, the full custody hearing was scheduled. Janet called to go over the details. Mary's lawyer is going to argue she's reformed, Janet said. That she's completed parenting classes, that she's been consistent with visitation, that she understands what went wrong. And Barbara, still barred. The restraining order is solid. But Mary's going to argue she's cut ties with her mother. Has she? According to the reports, yes. They haven't been seen together since the hearing. Mary's moved into her own apartment. She's in therapy. Will leaned against the kitchen counter. So what's the court going to decide? Honestly, I think you'll keep primary custody. But Mary might get unsupervised visitation, maybe even joint custody down the line if she continues to show progress. And if I don't want that, then we fight it. But if she's genuinely changed, if she's put Sophia first, the court is going to want to give her a chance. Will was quiet for a moment. What does Sophia want? That's what the judge is going to ask her. The night before the hearing, Will sat with Sophia on the porch. The Colorado evening was cool and clear, stars just beginning to appear. Tomorrow's the big day, Will said. Sophia nodded. She was wearing her purple beanie even though it wasn't cold. The judge might ask you some questions. About Mom, about what you want. I know. I want you to tell the truth. Whatever that is. Even if you think it'll make me upset. Sophia looked up at him. Do you want me to see Mom more? I want you to be safe. And happy. That's all I care about. What if I don't know what I want? Then you say that. There's no wrong answer here, baby. This is about you. Sophia pulled her knees up to her chest. Mom says she's sorry a lot now. I know, but I don't. I don't know if I believe her. That's fair. Is it bad that I don't? No. Trust has to be earned. She broke it. It's going to take time to fix. Sophia rested her chin on her knees. Do you trust her? We'll consider the question carefully. I trust that she loves you. I don't trust that she'll protect you if it means standing up to her mother. So no. Yeah. No. Do you think she ever will? I don't know. I hope so. But I'm not going to risk your safety to find out. Sophia nodded slowly. They sat in silence for a while, watching the stars come out. Finally, she said, I think I want to keep living with you. But maybe I could see Mom more. Without Ellen there. If that's okay. If that's what you want, we'll make it happen. Really? Really? But Sophia, if anything ever makes you uncomfortable, if Mom says something, or does something, or if you even just feel weird about something, you tell me. Immediately. Okay. I mean it. No matter what. You tell me. I will. I promise. We'll put his arm around her shoulders. Then we'll figure it out. Together. The courtroom was the same as before. Same worn carpet. Same fluorescent lights. Same judge with the steel gray hair. Mary was there with her lawyer. She looked different. Thinner. Tired. Her hair pulled back severely. When she saw Sophia, her face lit up with desperate hope. Sophia looked away. The judge reviewed the case file. We're here for a custody modification hearing. Mrs. Carter is requesting increased visitation and eventual joint custody. Mr. Carter is contesting. Let's hear from both sides. Mary's lawyer stood. Your Honor, Mrs. Carter has completed court-mandated parenting classes. She's attended every supervised visit without incident. She's in individual therapy and has cut all contact with Barbara Jensen. She's demonstrated genuine remorse and commitment to her daughter's well-being. Janet stood. Your Honor, while we acknowledge Mrs. Carter's efforts, the core issue remains. She failed to protect her daughter from abuse and then defended the abuser. That's not something that can be fixed with a few months of therapy. The judge looked at Mary. Mrs. Carter, have you had any contact with your mother since the last hearing? Mary stood. No, Your Honor. None at all. She's tried to reach out. I've ignored it. Why? Mary's voice shook. Because I chose her once, and it cost me my daughter. I won't make that mistake again. You understand that if custody is modified and you resume contact with Mrs. Jensen, you'll lose all rights? Yes, Your Honor. I understand. The judge turned to Will. Mr. Carter, what's your position? Will stood. I want what's best for Sophia. If she wants more time with her mother, I won't fight it. But I won't compromise her safety either. Fair enough. The judge looked at Sophia. Sophia, can you come up here? Sophia glanced at Will. He nodded. She walked to the stand, looking very small in the big chair. The judge's voice was gentle. Sophia, I need to ask you some questions. There are no right or wrong answers. I just want to know how you feel. Okay. Okay. Do you feel safe with your dad? Yes. Do you want to keep living with him? Yes. Do you want to see your mom more? Sophia hesitated. Maybe. I miss her sometimes. But I'm still scared. Scared of what? That she'll bring Grandma back. Or that she'll let something bad happen again. Has your mom done anything during your visits to make you think that would happen? Sophia shook her head. No. She's been nice. She says she's sorry a lot. Do you believe her? I think so. But I'm not sure. The judge nodded. That's very honest. Thank you, Sophia. Sophia was allowed to step down. She went back to sit with Will, and he squeezed her hand. The judge reviewed her notes. Based on the evidence and testimony, here's my ruling. Mr. Carter retains primary physical custody. Mrs. Carter is granted unsupervised visitation, 2 days per week, 4 hours per visit. We'll reconvene in 6 months to assess whether joint custody is appropriate. If Mrs. Carter has any contact with Barbara Jensen during this period, visitation will be revoked immediately and permanently. Are we clear? Mary's face flooded with relief. Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. The judge looked at Will. Mr. Carter? Yes, Your Honor. Good. This hearing is adjourned. The gavel came down. Outside, Mary approached them cautiously. Will. Sophia. Thank you. Thank you for giving me another chance. Sophia looked up at her mother, but didn't move closer. Mary knelt down. I know I have a lot to prove. I know you're scared, but I'm going to do everything I can to show you that I'll never let anyone hurt you again. Okay. Sophia nodded. Okay. Can I give you a hug? Sophia glanced at Will. He nodded. She stepped forward, and Mary wrapped her arms around her, holding on like she was afraid to let go. When they separated, Mary was crying. I love you so much. I love you too, Mom. I'll see you this weekend. Okay. Mary stood, wiped her eyes, and looked at Will. Thank you for not fighting this. I didn't do it for you. I did it for her. I know, but still, thank you. Will nodded. Mary walked away, her lawyer trailing behind her. Sophia slipped her hand into Will's. Dad, yeah, I think it's going to be okay. Will looked down at her, at his daughter, brave and honest and stronger than any 8-year-old should have to be. Yeah, he said. I think so too. 3 months later, on a Saturday afternoon, Will sat on the porch of their rental house, watching Sophia play in the backyard. Her hair had grown past her shoulders again, pulled back in a braid she'd learned to do herself. Mary's visits had gone well. Sophia still had moments of hesitation, but they were lessening. She laughed more now. She talked about her day at school without prompting. She was healing. Barbara hadn't tried to contact them again. The last Will had heard, she'd moved to Arizona to live with one of Mary's sisters. Good riddance. Will's phone buzzed. A text from Janet. How's everything going? He typed back. Good. Really good. Glad to hear it. You did the right thing, you know. I know. He set the phone down and looked out at the yard. Sophia was building something with sticks and rocks, humming to herself. The afternoon light caught in her hair, turning it golden. She looked up and waved. Dad, come see what I made. Will stood and walked over. She'd built a small structure, a fort, maybe, or a house. What is it? He asked. It's a safe place, she said, for the animals, so nothing bad can get them. Will crouched beside her. That's perfect, baby. She smiled up at him. Yeah, I think so too. And in that moment, in the quiet of their backyard, with the Colorado sun warm on their faces and the future uncertain but theirs, Will knew with absolute certainty. He'd done the right thing, the hard thing, the necessary thing. He'd chosen his daughter over everything else. And he'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because that's what fathers do. They protect, no matter who stands in the way.